Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of Dystopedia. I'm your host Matt Davidson and I'm once again joined by my colleague Andrew Hodgson.
How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Andrew, yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Good to be back again.
Yeah, very good. I'm a little bit dusty today. My sister recently got married, so I'm 2 days removed from that. So a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, and a lot of a celebration. So
Bit of singing, judging by the voice there.
yeah, I'm being a white male, that when Mr. Brightside came on, it got me in the mood. So
You're obliged to get up and dance like a fuckwit.
It's our anthem, isn't it? So yeah. But no, it was a great evening, and I'm happy for my sister, and she's marrying a good bloke, so I can't ask for anything more. So no, it was a great day.
I love it, mate.
Love it. It was good stuff. Yeah, yeah. So in today's episode, we'll be delving into this little short novel by a very famous author by the name of Ray Bradbury, and it is "There Will Come Soft Rains." Before we get into it, have you ever heard of this one before, Andrew?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it? Yeah, no, neither have I really. I just went down a bit of those dystopian rabbit holes and short novels and came across it. Obviously, we've heard of Ray Bradbury before, famous for Fahrenheit 451. So then I was like, oh, interesting to see what this one's about. And I've also read his previous one, Something Wicked Will Come This Way, which is in a bit of a different, it's more like a carnival atmosphere as opposed to...
Yeah, I've seen that one down the old down the YouTube rabbit hole.
Well, that one had a reference in a South Park episode, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, the Walmart one. Yes.
Something Walmart This Way Comes.
Yes.
Yeah. See, the reason I went down this is because there's a new song by The Cure off the new album called I Can Never Say Goodbye, but one of the lyrics says, Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I think when I didn't know what the song was, I was sort of searching the lyrics, and then that came up. I'm like, whoa, what's this?
Yeah. No, that one's, yeah, as I said, like it's like following like a traveling circus, and it's creepy, and there's all this weird stuff happens in this town and stuff. But it's not. I wouldn't call it. It's definitely not dystopian. It's more like a thriller, like horror kind of element to it.
Yeah, almost from what I was reading in the synopsis or whatever, it was like the battle between light and dark and all these elements.
It wasn't one of my favorite books I've ever read. Sometimes I find Ray Bradbury can go on these tangents and stuff where it gets a bit complicated. I'm like, oh, where are we going with this direction? Like, yeah.
Actually, and I'm glad we're doing this because down the line, obviously we will do Fahrenheit 451, but that was my first instinct. So I came away from that thinking, oh God, I don't even know if I liked it or what. Like, it was a bit like Akira for me.
Yeah. No,
so I'm looking forward to reading that one again, but today's not about Fahrenheit 451, is it?
No, it's definitely not. We're going to There Will Be Soft Rains. So, and actually similar to Fahrenheit 451, I had that kind of feeling when I read it the first time. I didn't fully take it in, I knew what was going on, but I didn't understand the subtle messaging behind it and what he was trying to reference and implicate and things like that. So, but then when you read it a couple of times, go over it, then the little things here and there start to click and you understand it, and then the time period it was set in, so it triggers those things. I'm like, oh, that's what he meant. So, okay, I'm getting it now. Like, yeah. Well, last week's episode we went into Starship Troopers, which is a bit more, let's say, a bit more casual than this story.
A bit more casual, but that one was there was a lot more than on the surface.
So, yeah,
but I know I really did enjoy that one. It was always a pleasure to watch Starship Troopers again.
Oh, any excuse to watch it, right? Yeah. And before we go into the plot and a bit of the background and things like that, what are we drinking today?
Oh, well, I'm still on Cooper's Brewery Australian Lager.
Oh, yeah, you've got to represent the Aussie beef, mate.
Yeah. Mate. This one's it's a real battler of a lager. This one, mate.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
This one's first off the boats at Gallipoli.
Oh,
even if all its mates are falling beside it, it's and the coordinates are wrong. It's still going, mate.
It's going with its mates. That's the main thing.
It's going up that hill.
Yeah, it's forming mateships, is it?
Yeah.
Well, you're on that. I'm on the. Where'd you get this one? The Brewdog.
Brewdog Extra Crisp. So it's from Aldi. So Brewdog is actually a Scottish brewery. There's some collaboration with Aldi, but fuck, it's great.
Yeah, it's very nice. And it says it's brewed in Brisbane. So that's close enough Aussie for me. So I'll take that in.
Yeah, mate.
A bit of Queenslander about it, you know. They raise them right up there in Queensland. You know, they're tough. Yeah. Oh, all right. So we'll go into a bit of the background of the story, and as we said earlier, we'll save Ray Bradbury, in depth of him for Fahrenheit 451, because that's his masterpiece work, right? That's the one everyone knows him for. Well, that one's, everyone would argue, some people argue that it's better than 1984, which I don't agree with, but it's definitely in those top 2-3 dystopian novels of all time that people reference.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that one again. Nothing's going to top 1984, but
yeah, I agree with that one too. Yeah,
I'll try and go in with an open mind.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say would you go with Eyes Wide Open with that?
Oh, not with the Creed references, mate.
Yeah, we won't go down the Creed rabbit hole. So he wrote this novel back in as part of the Martian Chronicles back in 1950. So you were saying a bit earlier off air about what was going on during that time of in the world, the world events.
Yeah. So I mean, 1950. I mean, look, not officially the start of the Cold War, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened, right?
Oh yeah, it's really ramping up, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you think the start of the Korean War, continued hydrogen bomb testing with the Soviet Union. We seem to mention it every week, but like the McCarthyism and the Red Scare seems to be a massive thing.
It was in the lead up. It wasn't officially the McCarthy era, but it was getting the tension was rising there. It was like I think it was towards the end of Truman. So yeah. Then I think as you said earlier, like it's still in the peak of the Korean War was in full swing. Douglas MacArthur was trying to nuke half the world at that stage.
Yeah, he was getting all like. Actually, Trump said something similar very recently, I think in the last few years, like, we've got them there, well, why don't we just use them? Like, well, kind of, that's not the point, mate, it's for deterrence, but yeah.
It's a bit more actually scary when the president's saying as opposed to a general, but
I know. Yeah.
At least the president's got the final say, like, yikes. But yeah, so Harry Truman, he was starting to lose a bit of popularity around that time, I think, too, Truman, because he won the unwinnable election when he defeated, I think it was Barry Goldwater, because there's a famous picture of him holding a newspaper saying Goldwater wins the election.
Right.
So he's in his second term. I think that was really on the back of the way the war ended, and he was a hero, and he felt like he stood up to Stalin and was controlling Winston Churchill and things like that. So on the back of that too, but that's when I think the economy started to change a bit, and that's where his popularity started to decline. So
okay.
Yeah. So what's funny as well is that most of the stuff that we've been doing recently, it seems to be around this 1950s time where these iconic authors are getting their inspiration and writing these stories and short novels and things like that where, the world's changing. It's on a knife's edge. Pandora's box has been opened with nuclear weapons, and this unforeseen future which can be quite scary and bleak is popping up. They're saying, technology's advancing as well. Things are changing. Though in the 1950s, you start to see, the American dream where people are getting, microwaves and fridges and vacuum cleaners, things like that.
Yeah, such a rapid rise of technology at the time. What I found interesting, you mentioned the the dropping of the atom bomb and the dawn of the atomic age, and then into hydrogen bombs. Let's say Pandora's box had been open. At the research for this, I was looking at the advancements in computing at the time. So obviously Alan Turing, coming out of the Second World War, we all know him famously for Enigma and what he did there. He actually came up with a concept called the Turing test, obviously named after himself. Really one of the first people warning about AI. So he was saying this test was actually to determine whether a machine can exhibit intelligent behavior indistinguishable from that of a human. So basically what it was, you would get a human judge who would interact with both a human and a machine. So this would be through text-based conversation without knowing which one was which. So if the judge couldn't reliably tell the machine from the human, the machine is considered to have passed, showing that it shows human intelligence kind of thing. I mean, I don't know why he felt like he needed to do this, but I think he was basically sort of questioned on his thinking of, can machine take over? And he's like, well, yeah, I think in his mind, he didn't really do anything about it, but he said, look, there's nothing we can do. Basically, you've opened Pandora's box now. I don't know, he hasn't quite been proven right yet, but in the story we're about to read, you can kind of see there's a lot of that over-reliance on technology. There's a lot of warning pieces. This is one of them. It's sort of a bit like I have no mouth and I must scream, right? A little bit different, but
yeah, definitely from the same.
Ultimately, warning about the same thing, right?
Yeah, the same undertones are definitely there.
Yeah,
referencing that. So, but yeah, back to the novel itself. Bradbury has described this book as he's the one story that really represents the essence of him as an author. So for him to say that about this short story, which is only 5-6 pages, and compared to the other stuff he's written as well, that's saying something that he really felt a connection to what was going on and what it represents and what the bleak future of what society could be. So it's obviously something that he feared a lot and played on his conscience a lot.
Yeah, it was funny. I've done quite a bit of research, as we both always do when we know we're going to be discussing these topics. I watched a few interviews with him giving some talks about writing, but what I was really trying to do was find an interview with him talking about his fear of technology and nuclear weapons. I couldn't find anything. All the examples seem to be in his works.
Yeah.
The one thing I did find, though, was he said, I don't think the robots are taking over. I think the men who play with toys are taking over. So his fear was like using technology for the wrong reasons, particularly in war. I think that was where he seemed to, like, a lot of it, they used to go on that themes with his books and stuff, sort of things. What I will say about the bloke, just, and I know we said we're not going to go too much into the backstory because of Fahrenheit 451, but some of the words of wisdom from the bloke, like watching him give talks and stuff, like talking about writing, and he's saying things like, oh, like intelligence is a great danger to creativity, and he doesn't think there should be a degree on writing. I mean, that's us fucked with our communications degrees, right?
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Yeah.
But I, to be honest, I knew that going in, but here we are.
Yeah, what you described in the interview, it seems like he's the type too that, a lot of times in life we all overthink things and then you defeat yourself before you even start. He seems to be like, nah, just get out there, do it. Start writing. Who gives a shit if it's shit or not? Just get, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things he was saying. He was talking, and it was a University of California lecture, I think in 2001, I was watching. And I was going to switch it off because it wasn't going down what I needed, but I ended up listening to the whole hour and 10 of it.
Oh, wow.
And he was talking to like the class, and he's like, look, you want to go and write a novel, don't start with a novel. You write one short story every week. Quite a few of them are going to be shit. But after the 45th, I defy you to have a bad one. There will be one or two good ones in there, after a year. And I'm like, kind of like, it's probably like this podcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is like that. Yeah.
But it's what he did. He wrote that, and one of these short stories was There Will Come Soft Rains. And I think in the end, I think it was 1950, he'd gone to New York City to become sort of discovered. You know how a lot of people used to do that? They'd go to
the big city.
Go to the big city. And I think on his last night there, he'd met, and I can't remember the publisher he'd met, but basically he said, look, you've got all these short stories. Have you thought about turning them into a novel? And he's like, what do you mean? And it became what's called like a fix-up novel, which is basically the Martian Chronicles. So it's like stories that were written, all these stories that were written, that kind of, he puts them together into a novel. And so he'd write like some pieces to sort of link them all together kind of thing. And that became the Martian Chronicles, which is, I don't know, I don't really know of any other examples of fix-up novels, but that used to happen a lot back in the day, I think.
Yeah, well, that was kind of, like, obviously reading's still popular now, but not like back then. It was a lot more popular in general as part of the zeitgeist, right? So,
yeah.
Well, now we've got like, phones and internet and things like that, where back there that was a big form of entertainment, right? Now we've got so many different variations of it. So, no, it makes sense why like things like that would pop up, and, a good way to get noticed back in those days too.
Yeah. And that's, I guess this story will fit in as what you would call like a vignette into like the Martian Chronicles. So it's almost giving a bit of background. The Martian Chronicles is basically, I haven't read it, but I listened to a radio play on the BBC. I think it came out like 2014. Don't quote me on that. But it was almost about like human colonization on Mars, where Earth is dying. They go to Mars, but the Martians die because of smallpox or something. Almost like what happened to the Aztecs with the Spanish.
Yeah, interesting.
But like, the humans bring all their old habits, so greed, and they come and mine the place. And
so basically what Elon Musk is trying to do now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Funny, yeah.
And this just serves, and then there's a nuclear war on Earth, and this piece that we're about to go through today serves as like the background to that. Oh. It's quite, one day I will read it. It seems a bit disjointed, but also interesting at the same time.
Yeah, very intriguing. Yeah. And of course done by like an absolute, legend author too, and that it's got, his touch and things like that are part of it, so it would be definitely interesting to go down that kind of rabbit hole as well.
Yeah. There's probably heaps of topics in there. There's something like the never-ending picnic or the last night on Earth. There's all sorts of stuff which like it's quite intriguing.
Very intriguing, yeah.
Yeah, but I was getting distracted and I needed to stay on target.
Yeah. We always get sidetracked sometimes, don't we?
Yeah.
I'll also say too, like it did get this like in retrospective, like this novel got recognised as like was it the Pulitzer Prize winner in I think in 2007. It was here saying like while time has mostly quelled the likelihood of total annihilation, Bradbury was a lone voice among his contemporaries in contemplating the potentialities of such horrors. So basically saying he was one of the leading voices, like one of the only voices, about raising concern about what they were doing at the time,
right,
and what the dangers are. Where I think too, with propaganda back in those days, a lot easier for them to, like the American public and media, to pump whatever the government wanted it to go out.
Well, yeah, and I think particularly the 1950s, when you look back, there was like a real celebration of like this human achievement of like the atomic bombings and stuff. It was all like celebrated, and I mean, you think of the marketing of like of the bikini, the fashion, like the costumes that.
Named after the
actual testing. When they, how many people did they move off there? They moved tens of thousands of indigenous off the island, bombed the shit out of it. Yeah, but it was like, and there was songs with like it was songs with like lyrics about it. But it was all the glory of atoms and how good are we as humans.
atom bomb. I want her in my wigwam. She's just the way I want it to be. A million times hotter than TNT.
Yeah, and then when you see the test footage as well, like the true horror and the like the size of the explosions, and but then they kind of like get that, like it's kind of like a proud achievement, as you were saying before. Like they're all like, oh, look at that, look what we're doing, leading the world in this thing, and where no one's going to challenge us, and you know we're basically going to be in control of all the weapons and manufacturing going forward. So yeah, no, it's very like very strange times, very and also too, like at least when nuclear energy was starting to come this thing, like, oh, this could be benefiting society going forward and clean energy, and but then no one talks about the side effects and the harmful dangers of it. So
fucking human nature will fucking weaponize it.
Yeah. What's where you see like inspirations for other forms of media, like the Fallout series, when it comes that 1950s style, like on steroids, basically in the future, and they're using nuclear stuff for everything, like part of like soft drinks and fuel and things like that.
Coca-Cola,
Coca-Cola and stuff like that. Yeah. So you can see where they're taking that that inspiration / parody from that kind of time period. So no, I like kind of like in hindsight too, you can kind of say, oh, of course it was good he stood up for them, stood up against it. It's like, yeah, but at the time he might have been a bit of a pariah, a bit going against going against the currents. So I kind of admire that he stuck to his guns and was raising concerns through this form of media, basically. Through publications.
I do too, and I've got a newfound. I only knew him from Fahrenheit 451 and what I read. I've got a newfound love for him. Like, quite a motivational bloke. Someone who writes about all this dystopian stuff. I didn't expect to feel so good.
Yeah.
I'm like watching him and the way he was talking about it, he made it all seem so simple. One thing he did said though, like he's really of the belief that he's never worked a day in his life, and he's like, I couldn't imagine getting up every day and just doing something to fill time or doing something mediocre. You must always love what you do and blah blah blah. He goes, look, if you're getting up every day and filling time or passing time, I recommend suicide.
Oh wow!
Like,
wow, yeah. Oh well, that's what I kind of do now, but my job's a bit like that. So I know what he's saying. That's but it makes sense in a way, doesn't it?
There's no bullshit.
Yeah.
He's almost quite a spiritual bloke. He's just like he's a lot of trust in his subconscious. I was reading like you must never go to the typewriter and think. You must always feel, and somewhere your intelligence will come through that, but you must never think at the typewriter. I was like, yeah, all right, yeah, it's
yeah, he's kind of one of those guys where you just whatever comes to mind, just spit it out. No matter if it's good, bad, or ugly, it will come out. And then,
just keep going.
Repetition. Then you'll fine tune your craft, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, you think of all these fuckwits that write these books, like the 5 a.m. club, and do this and do that. Everyone wants to be a millionaire and that. So.
Well, it was like that guy who went viral recently. He gets up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, like puts his face in like ice water and shit. He's like, oh fuck off, like come on. Yeah. The guy got a full 6-pack. Like, oh yeah, you don't tell people the other stuff you do. Like
wanker,
exactly. Yeah. I think we've done just a bit of the Black story and stuff. And sorry, just a correction. The 1948 election, it wasn't Barry Goldwater. It was Thomas E. Dewey. So I got that wrong. That was my apologies. I got carried away there, but the same thing implies he won the unwinnable election. So
yeah, actually, on that note, I should take this. Last week when I was talking about Starship Troopers, I'd called the author of the book Richard Hyman when I should have said it was Robert Hyman.
One little slip. It's all right. We're getting better. We'll try not to make these mistakes going forward, but it happens.
Well, that's what pissed me off. I took the time to read the book and fucked up his name. But anyway.
Sometimes we always forget the bleeding obvious, don't we? Yeah.
That's
we remember these obscure rabbit hole things, but forget the author's name.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, without further ado, I reckon we should probably start reading the synopsis and get into it. What do you reckon?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, a nuclear catastrophe leaves the city of Allendale, California, entirely desolate. However, with one miraculously preserved house, the daily routine continues. Automatic systems within the home prepare breakfast, clean the house, make beds, wash dishes, and address the former residents without any knowledge of their current state as burnt silhouettes on one of the walls, similar to human shadow etched in stone. That evening, the house recites to the absent hostess a random selection by her favourite poet, There Will Come Soft Rains, by Sarah Teasdale. A windstorm blows a tree branch through a window in the kitchen, starting a fire. The house's systems desperately attempt to put out the fire, but the doomed home burns to the ground in a night. The following dawn, all that remains is a single wall, which contains an automated system that endlessly reads aloud the date and time.
Yeah, well, that's the very. It is very like that sums up the short story, but there was so much to take in when you're reading it for the first time and seeing
Yeah.
what was going on with it. So
Oh yeah, definitely. One of the first things that really stuck out at me was it was talking about when it introduced the human characters. There aren't no human characters, but it references the silhouettes on the walls, right? Like it's only 5 years on from the bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So there's the most famous one with on the steps at Sumitomo Bank in Hiroshima, where there's an imprint of an old, what some people say, an old man with a walking stick sitting on the steps.
yeah, imagine being at the time seeing that image for the first time, because you wouldn't have. I guess like people were a bit more sheltered back then too, with exposure to things. Imagine it'd be so eerie watching that for the first time, seeing that picture that's actually a human being silhouette on the ground there.
Well, you know what's weird, like, because I guess it's the thermal radiation that the body almost, so it bleaches the wall behind, but the body blocks out the silhouette, and it's that you've essentially forever caught you in your last moment.
Yeah,
it's
so.
Yeah,
and no one's really ever seen anything like that before. That was the result of the first bomb being dropped. Like, yeah, it's so eerie and creepy, isn't it?
Yeah. I think there were countless examples of it, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but I think that's the most famous one. And I think over time, a lot of them, due to like weather conditions, things like that, have not been unable to be preserved. But I think that is still at the Hiroshima Peace Museum. Wouldn't mind seeing that one day, actually.
No, definitely. Yeah, so go pay your respects to it, kind of thing. See one like that. Yeah, it was a pretty horrific event that happened there.
Yeah, it was. And I think in the novel or in the short story, they mentioned that like there's a man mowing the lawn, there's a woman bent over to pick flowers, a boy throwing a ball, and a girl raising hands to catch a ball. So it's like they were sort of, well, I guess they hit him out of the blue. Then they didn't know it was coming. They got no warning, I suppose, right?
Yeah, it's like it's their last moments frozen in time forever, kind of thing.
Pretty idyllic, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's that with representing of the house, this ultimate perfection, ultra futuristic advanced house where it does all these things, but then they're living this like the white picket fence lifestyle from what people thought was the idyllic lifestyle back in the 1950s, and this last snapshot frozen in time for when the most horrific events happened. Like it's so big, massive juxtaposition of where they were and then what happened after. Like it's just it's very eerie and creepy like that.
Yeah, and it's really like cleverly introduced and written. You know, it's taken all this time to talk about, and there's a lot of personification of the house, and it's talking about. And I guess you've got the still lifeless silhouettes to the actual house getting on with its routine and keeping busy, and
it's programmed to continue its cycle, right? And it doesn't know that no one's there. All it knows is it's programmed to do its daily chores and things like that. I like to how it opens up with it made the eggs sunny side up and the strips of bacon, the perfectly brown toast, and you're thinking, it's basically like, I wouldn't mind a house like that. It'd be great. Like, you don't have to do anything, just that kind of idyllic theme coming out. And then when he starts to slowly like add little details here and then, you're like, I know this is where this is going. It's starting to go. You don't understand what's happening.
Well, that's kind of what interested me, Matt, and you hit it on the head there with like you don't have to do anything. You know, when you're watching, like, you're seeing the house, it sort of cleans up, it cooks, it gets the kids out of bed.
It tells them to go to school, tells them the power bill's due, wasn't it? The water and gas bill, yeah. Yeah,
it tells them everything. It's almost what was the role of the people in this world? Like, you know, like you think of today's, where we are at the moment with AI, I suppose you look at it with like, I suppose we're losing our humanity a bit. Like we're almost like cyborgs now. We can't really do anything without our phones. There's a real fear of like AI taking certain jobs.
We'll reference in previous episodes, like where we just, instead of going to, before we try and figure it out ourselves, we just go to ChatGPT to find the answer. It's kind of definitely like, it's kind of mirroring what's going on in this short novel.
Yeah, well, that's right, and it's that. Yeah, the reference of the silhouettes on the wall to the house. I think it's a lot deeper than it seems on the surface, right?
Yeah.
It's
kind of like he's setting the tone for what's like, or setting the picture for what's going on and what's really happening. And also too with the house, it's just the way it's programmed to block anything out that could be considered a threat or danger. So a bird comes to the window and the shutters go down quickly, and then the something like a fox or a cat comes to the door, and then it tells them it yells at it, what is the password, identify yourself, kind of thing. And then it kind of has that bit of that the Purge like house thing. I was thinking of that when I was reading it, but actually like the ultra security fences going down. I was thinking that kind of imagery was coming to my mind. So you can imagine it being like that. But then ironically, it let the sound of dog bark in through it.
Well, that's the thing with the dog. Like, it says it recognizes the voice. So was it the family's pet? Was it?
It's not really explained, is it?
No,
Yeah.
but it lets a dog in. This part of the story really got me, and only on the second time around. Like, obviously, I'm a dog owner myself. You know, yeah.
Unfortunately, I lost my dog recently, but yeah, I know the feeling 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, you're reading about the dog, and the dog sort of, it walks around, it comes in, it's sort of huffing and puffing, running around, and
Well, he kind of portrays it. Oh, it used to be full of its belly and prideful, but now it's a skinny bone
got
with
sores
and stuff. And you just the imagery of it, you can just imagine this weak, skinny dog, just like barely with enough energy, just going around, and then it smells was it the bacon or the eggs?
pancakes.
Pancakes,
yeah.
sorry, yeah, being cooked, and that instinct, that animalistic instinct kicks in for food, and it's just scratching all the last bit of energy, scratching at that door, but it's locked off from it, and you just you think, oh, and
Yeah, and it hit me with like the dog, the actual use of bringing that dog into it, because the dog is like, if you think we've domesticated the dog now so much that the dog is our fate and theirs is like tied now. I think of my own dog bloke. The little fella, I have to cut his chicken up into bite-sized pieces. He's done. I mean, he would not last in the wild. And you think of like, so I think there's a mid chance. It's not mid chance that he's picked the dog, right? We were talking about the adaptation, the Uzbekistani.
You highly recommend anyone to go watch that. It's very well done.
Yeah, the Uzbekistani. It was like a Soviet movie done for it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it came out like 1984, I think. Yeah.
What a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a common theme, doesn't it? Yeah.
But that replaced the dog with a bird, and I felt like it lost. There's a lot of meaning in that dog, because we domesticated dogs 20 to 40,000 years ago, and there was almost like, it's like the dog almost made the deal with the devil in the sense, well, we don't have to hunt anymore, we don't have to do this. There's this symbiotic relationship with humans.
Yeah, they seem to like the humans seem to like us, and we're getting it's like a mutual benefit relationship going forward.
So
yeah,
they lose all that instinct and think, well, if I'm just cute and look at you in a certain way and do all this, you'll give me food, and it's like it's that.
Well, it's kind of like survival of the fittest, right? Where it adapts to its environment and surroundings and what it can get out of it. So that's what, and like a lot of dogs now do that, don't they?
Yeah. And this, that's what like it hit me when that dog dies. His fate is tied to ours. It would not last after, like a cat could, or the birds could, or perhaps even foxes and things like that. Yeah, they could, but not the dog. Like it's and it was like sort of hard, and it even got me thinking like. As this keeps happening in this podcast, you go down the rabbit hole. It reminds me of like the fates of like, you think when like America pulled out of Vietnam, like the last chopper out of Saigon, and they just sort of all the South Vietnamese, all the allegiances and the alliances. It's like you're just left now to your fate.
They're basically like lambs to the slaughter.
You're lambs to the slaughter, and like, I know you helped us, and there's this reliance on you, and sorry, but we're out. It's like you think about what happened in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
My head was going there with it. Like, obviously, he could have never known that was going to happen, but
especially it's kind of like, so Vietnam. Like America was backing South Vietnam for what, 15, 16 years. You think that's like the dog's like lifespan. So it's kind of like it's kind of like the symmetry in that as well. Like
and he, as I say, he could have never known that. But it's just reading it, like all these things were. And perhaps it's just in the research for this podcast, but your mind's just going. That's a million miles an hour.
That's one thing I love about novels, short stories. Even though the author might not be wanting you to think about these certain things, but it does invoke those thoughts and feelings about things. Like it brings things like that out, where you can think, oh, I could interpret it this way or that way, as opposed to when you're watching a movie where you're like, no, this is the visualization of what it is. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, this is a lot more powerful because it's never been adapted. It's all left to your imagination, right? Yeah,
exactly. Another thing too, I think what's differentiates the 1984 Soviet Union animation film or short film of the book, of the novel, is because it's like done that very, that Soviet Union got that very like, that has like no imagination kind of feel to it, like very, A to B and black and white kind of feel to it. And it's got this real creepy voice, and it's maneuvering the chairs up, and then you see like the ashes of the people like fall down.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy the way
it was done. Yeah, and because it's done in that 80s cartoon style as well, it made it more significant. If it was done today in like ultra high colors and stuff, it just wouldn't have that same feeling to it.
Yeah, it'd be overproduced, wouldn't it?
Exactly, where it felt really dark and depressing, and you really felt like this robot just going through its motions and just following its orders around the house, and when the little mice come out and sweep the floors, and it was very creepy. And it was kind of funny too. The voice sounds like Jabba the Hutt a bit. Like, he's like, it's like, ooh, dude, oh, dude, Chewbacca, a bit like that. That's what I was thinking about the whole time, like watching it. But yeah, but it actually kind of, that voice kind of made it even more creepy and more like depressing about what the fate of the world is there.
I mean, one thing that, you're sitting there, how has that house remained perfectly intact as well? When you're...
Yeah, I was thinking that too, actually. Or I guess maybe he's trying to say, because this house was so advanced and futuristic kind of thing, it withheld the blast. But why is everything else fallen except for this one house? But yeah, it's kind of, yeah. And then why did a branch, because at the end, or we said in the summary, the branch breaks into the house. Why did that break it but not the blast? But yeah. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it.
Yeah, don't question the plot.
No, I'm not going to question the plot, no. So another thing too that was brilliant about the animation too is the scene with the record player. So it plays, I think it was a song, I can't remember what the song was being played, but you see a screen come down and it shows you like a beautiful background where like scenery, like grass hills and sun shining and things like that. Then when the song stops playing, it gets revealed that it's actually like a screen, like a TV screen that's playing it. And then when the window goes up, you're seeing like the dark rain pelting down and the real like the devastation of the world in the background is like showing the true horror and the reality of what's actually going on outside. So I really like the way it did that, because like at one section I remember thinking, in the novel it does go into like, oh, the sun does rise and it's a nice day, but then in this animation then you think, oh, that was really well done. Like I really appreciate it went that way.
It almost lulled you into
false sense of security.
When it pulled it up, whoa, fuck, it was jarring.
It was jarring, yeah. As I said, like, it pulled you into this false sense of security. You're thinking, oh, maybe there's some hope there. It's like, oh no, there isn't. No, it's pretty much complete annihilation. Besides the little animals in the world.
Yeah, and look, I'm definitely glad I actually read story before I watched that.
Yeah, same there. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was He was pretty faithful, but as I say, the only thing that they lost something when it was the bird instead of the dog. I felt, a big thing, And also too, like the way the house collapsed was because the bird like got in and then tricked it as well, when it was like smashing the walls trying to kill it. Yeah, and then it kind of that creates the open hole, and then that's what catches fire, I think, from memory. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's probably trying to be too clever for its own good. But for probably for a state-run kind of animation at that time, you think too, in 1984, the peak of when Reagan and the Soviet Union were going, hammer and tong about negotiations and things, like it's, very, very, very fitting and convenient time to bring it out. Yeah, it was. Like thinking about the technology in the house, I guess it naturally you're sitting here thinking about this is set in 2026, April 4, 2026. Is that right? August 4, 2026. So we're almost a year away from the date. Yeah, there we are. Yeah. You naturally start looking about where are we now? Like, it talks about the, these robot mice that sort of come out at the thought of any sort of muck or anything like that. I suppose we've got robotic vacuums that are getting better and better. The one difference is this house shows a lot of autonomy. Like I don't think we're quite there yet as humans, Yeah. But I mean, look, there's a lot of research going into it. I mean, I dare say it's not going to be too long, but yeah, it could be maybe 25, 30 years away. Like you could see it happening, definitely. Oh yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of research going into it, but this is the thing where you've got a lot of people that actually started that research, and now I think half have joined the other side saying, no, you have to stop this because this could destroy humanity. And you know what I mean? We're like, well, as we've already established, like Pandora's box has been opened. You can't. It's like Oppenheimer. Yeah, dropping the atomic bomb, or not dropping the atomic bomb, but coming up with the research and creating it, and then saying, oh well, we need to stop it there. No, the cat's been let out of the bag. That's not how it works. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, look, you've got the robot mice. You've obviously got the one of the first scenes when they wake up in the morning. It's 7 o'clock, and you think Alexa or Hey Google and all that sort of thing. Now you get your phone, all the alarms going off, reminders pop up, notifications. What happens? Yeah, all of that. And I think we're well. The thing I like about it too is the section where they're playing. It sets up the card game for the people upstairs. And they're playing, is it Bridge or something like that? Because that's like a real oldies game, right, for us. But like back then, it was very popular. And then it requests, oh, hello, Mrs. Well, I can't remember her name, but it was like Mrs. something. Mrs. McClellan? McClellan or something. What would you like to listen to? And then it's not getting a response. So then it must have some default, like after 10 seconds, if I don't hear a response. Oh, okay. I'll just go to your favourite poem then. And that's where the name of the title comes into it.
There Will Come Soft Rains, which is a poem by
Sarah Teasdale.
Sarah Teasdale, yeah. And this was written in 1918, just before, around the same time as the German Spring Offensive. And it's a kind of a poem that goes into, what we've discussed off air about...
So probably the Spanish flu as well, right?
Spanish flu is involved in it too, but it's invoking that once humanity's gone and been, and like it's destroyed itself from its own self-inflicted wounds, the world will be reborn, rebirthed, right? And the animals will go on; they'll forget about humans, civilization. The world will keep spinning, basically.
Well, yeah, there's this hubris with humanity that we think the world ends when we end, and it doesn't.
No.
Yeah, we've been here the blink of an eye.
No, it's our own pride and ego. Yeah.
Yeah. The birds don't care. The cockroaches don't care.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. It's the world goes on and nature reclaims and.
Well, if you think of the grand scheme of things, we've been around 100,000, 200,000 years
as
creatures.
Yeah.
Like, in this greater schemes of the universe, that is not even a blink of an eye. It's not even a grain of sand on the earth in the scheme of time. Like, it's just we always seem to think we're so centered of the universe when we're actually nothing, really.
No. It's survival of the fittest. We're no better than anything else we see here now. Everything's here because it's adapted to the conditions.
It's funny. It reminds me of this one YouTube video. It was it shows like, here's Earth. This is where we are. Zooms out to the solar system. Zooms out to the Milky Way. Zooms out to the star systems or the galaxies, and then up to the universe. And then it shows basically at the end of it saying, "You're not the center of the universe. Basically, you're not important. Don't worry about it." Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you're so insignificant. Like, just don't sweat small stuff. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And I think we should probably read the poem. It probably encapsulates all that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He reads it during the short novel. So
yeah. I might read it if you want.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Well, actually, what would be more fitting? The NPC character, Mr. Handy from Fallout 3, reads the poem during the game, like a little Easter egg spot in it. So let's get him to do it instead of us reading it out.
Yeah, good point. Let's do that.
How may I serve you, master? Not that I really want to. There will come soft rains and the smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pool singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire, and not one will know of the war, not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone.
Yeah, it invokes those feelings that when you read the Flanders Fields or The Last Post. In Australia, we play that on Anzac Day, where we commemorate the Australians' first landing at Gallipoli. When you hear those words and way, like kind of like it rhymes and it's all subtle, but like it's like, because there's less detail, it actually less words but means more, kind of thing. It's more impactful. Yeah. But yeah, it summarizes what you said before about, the world will keep going, will keep turning, the animals will keep chirping, the birds will keep singing.
We just pretty much like chatted all that shit, and that's just summed it up better than we ever could,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's what that does to you. You're like, fuck, that is a powerful poem,
Yeah. No, and I think she wrote it at a time when, I've said before, like, with Spring Offensive happening, like a very much an anti-war message too. Like saying how as humans in the society at the time, like we was sending these men to the slaughter, like dying needlessly for some unjust war, some kind of I wouldn't say never ending, but it was kind of a stalemate at that time as well.
Yeah,
like,
and I guess like what we were doing to the ecosystem and the planet, and it's just destroying the earth basically, But
especially when you see some of those the shellings that were happening back then as well, and just you're seeing the beautiful grounds of of France and Belgium just being absolutely obliterated, and the trenches, and then it was needlessly people dying for some cause, some unjust reason, right?
Very, very, very powerful message. Yeah, and the way where they throw it in the book or in the short story was quite good as well. Yeah, that it picked that poem just because the plot needed it to, but that's all right.
No, but like he did, because obviously it's named after that poem, so he wanted to invoke it and like pay like tribute to it, right, by adding it in there and using it as like a reference to what a world, what would happen, like a reference like saying after a nuclear apocalypse, what would happen, kind of thing. Like, the world will continue on, but then it's in this kind of real dystopian, bleak future. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like the even the way, do you think it's more powerful because there's no humans? Like, and this is really different because of like most other. In fact, I can't think of any other stories that we've talked about or gone through where there's actually, it might have been the last man on earth, that there might be someone there. It's people driven. Where this personifies the house.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it's more powerful because of that?
Yeah, I think it is, definitely. No, because there's no. Well, I guess like when we talked about, I had the mouth must scream, where it becomes sentient. Where this house is not sentient. It's just following its programming. It's just going through its.
Well, it's ironic that it's outlasted its creators, right?
Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah. Well, I think that's what he was kind of like juxtapositioning in this novel, where on the one hand, the advancement of technology is this great marvel that we've done. We've given ourselves like kind of like godlike powers, where we're creating something to do things for us and thrive in this kind of advanced technology society. But on the other hand, you make that deal with the devil with these kind of technologies, where people get access to these crazy weapons and weapons of mass destruction. And then when you're playing with fire and matches like that, it can destroy the whole world in a blink of an eye. So it's kind of like the symmetry of this marvel of technology, but then in the background, this post-apocalyptic world that's where we've all been wiped out. So yeah.
Well, yeah, essentially, like I Have No Mouth, it's a warning against the misuse of technology. And yeah, I don't think Ray Bradbury was advocating to like stop sort of progressing and moving forward. In fact, I think he was a big advocate for like space travel, all that sort of stuff. I think he wrote about space travel before it even started happening.
We think too, like the Martian Chronicles, like he's obviously a fan of science fiction, right? So like he wants to invoke those kind of themes and endeavors, right? So we're going forward, but at the same time, like also don't play with the other side of it too. Like, you got to try and maintain and control it. You can't just let these kind of powers get to people that who have bad intentions, because as a species we're flawed, right? There's no such thing as a perfect human. So we've all got these bad instincts in us. Like, if power gets to our heads, we can justify anything basically.
Yeah, and that's where he was the common theme in everything he really writes, and everything we'll probably go on to talk about will be the misuse of technology, particularly in war. That's, I think, was his biggest fear. I don't think he hated, but it's that whole thing of like you said, we're a flawed species. I think it's inevitable that it probably always goes that way. We've spoken about it before, and I think we spoke about it earlier in this chat. The fact that nuclear energy was brought in as just that. It was energy to actually. You could have brought third world countries out of poverty. You could have given free energy that never ends, and we wouldn't have to rely on fossil fuels. Yet we fucking weaponize it. It's almost like we will always find a way to get there.
Exactly.
And that's what this sort of short story. That's how I interpret it. It's how I would interpret that poem. Yeah. Teasdale.
Not to get too off topic, but it kind of, I think, like when you think about Nazi Germany, that was kind of like the closest we ever got to where someone with ultimate power could have destroyed the world out of ego and pride, like just. And
I don't think Einstein gets enough credit for seeing that.
Yeah,
and getting out when he did, because fuck me, what a sliding doors moment that was.
I know, and if they got hands of those weapons, where would we be now? Like it's actually terrifying to think about.
But and sorry to interrupt you.
Go, yeah.
The irony of it is that some of the Jewish scientists were the smartest on the planet, yet they could not get that credit, so they were kept down and they couldn't pursue their fields. Imagine if he wasn't such a racist bastard, we'd be fucking...
We'd be a very different world.
It would.
Probably wouldn't exist, actually. Yeah.
Oh, he would have used it, no doubt.
Oh, no, they were throwing everything they could at all the Western allies, so, like, no, they...
Probably a nice little segue into next week's episode of Wolfenstein, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, but... No, it's... When we explore, like, anything nuclear apocalypse kind of thing, it's just... Yeah, it makes me so grateful that, he never got... it got, it could have been such a slowing doors moment if they found it first before we did. And I think too, because they were so evil and so, I know we always talk about things not being, everything's black and white, but I think the World War II is probably best summarized as, like, you could argue that it is very black and white because the Japanese and Nazi Empire were so evil, but I think because they were that way, it kind of enticed and encouraged and, like, motivated them to, like, we've got to beat them, we have to outsmart them out, get advance, find the ultimate weapon to defeat them. Basically, we can't let them get there first. And that's that kind of that human instinct where we'll talk about a lot of other stuff where we're always wanting to get bigger and bigger and grander. That kind of motivation can be a good thing, but then also can be a bad thing as well.
Yeah. That's right. And it's more like, I think the tie-in with like, probably got more off topic, but the tie-in with capitalism as well, like consumer capitalism being the driver for like the military industrial complex, and we're always going to find a way, we're always going to come up with the next thing because of that incentive, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
The money, and that's where like, I guess we're destined to, the irony is it's probably capitalism that destroys us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what you're saying, yeah.
We cannot go back to a feudal-like existence. We just can't do it now.
Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've said earlier, Pandora's box has already been opened, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
So many things, isn't it? Yeah. I guess too, with this world that it's in, like, I think he really encapsulates as well just how empty and bland it is as well. Like just the robotic house is doing its chores, doing this, but then the sprinklers are still going on in the background, so it's maintaining this beautiful lawn, but then there's no the rest of the world, and the landscape's all barren, like emptiness, and the wind's blowing, and there's no response. There's no hustle and bustle of a city or a town. It's just this eerie emptiness and silence. Besides the nature's noises, and then the house as well. So, yeah, I think that really encapsulates like a real bleak dystopian future, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's where I say like the personification of the house is like so powerful that you just, and like you're reading about it. It's that it's just freaky. It is like something out of Fallout. You could just, and it wouldn't surprise me like if in any of the games you'd walk into a house and the house is like trying to kill you or something. Like it probably is. Fallout's such a massive game that you.
Oh, you have those automatic turrets like set up for you when you walk into a place and it starts shooting you automatically. Like it's that kind of thing. Yeah, so it's like always defending its territory.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the house does, right? When it shuts the shutters down when the bird's trying to come in to the place and keep the cats away. Yeah.
You know, when I was first reading it, I was thinking of that. Is that Simpsons? That Treehouse of Horror one? Is it the one where Pierce Brosnan's in it and he's like the voice of the house?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think that was a bit of a parody of 2001: Space Odyssey as well. There's another movie as well. I can't remember what it is, but it's like a house that controls something. But it is a bit like that actually. Yeah.
Well, actually, A Space Odyssey was sort of a bit of a warning against technology as well. I'm led to believe, having never seen it, and I perhaps should. But I believe that was almost in the same vein as this, and I Have No Mouth. Oh, well, funny. I remember it's one of my dad's favourite movies, and I remember he took us when I was a kid, my sister and I, to see it in the year 2001. So they re-released it for that. Yeah. But I was like 7 or 8 at the time or something, and I was so bored during it. So I didn't know what was going on because it's about 3.5 hours too. So imagine like a 9-year-old in a movie like that. So like it was a bit, I'll have to watch it again though, because it's an all-time classic. But it kind of evokes that same kind of futuristic dystopian themes as well. So I also think like this day and age, whilst the threat of like nuclear annihilation hasn't gone away, in fact, as we've established, it's probably grown exponentially given the doomsday clock. But you could almost interpret it now as like climate change too, right? Because we see the that whole concept of like nature taking back. In the end, the branch falls through, and I think fire is the real metaphor for it, right? How the house tries to fight the fire away, and then the fire's sneaky and it finds a way up there, and you know that kind of the way he almost personifies the fire as well. Well, he wasn't like he tries to put out the fire, but then because the window smashes, then that invokes the oxygen gets in, and then it invokes it bigger and stuff. And it's almost like that. That's almost like Mother Nature. Like it's in a microcosm, I guess, is what it's doing. One thing I will, going off topic again, we talked about the poem. It is very poetic in the writing of it, right? Yeah, that you feel like I almost read it like a poem. It's like real. There's a lot of rhythm, and it's almost like you're singing when you're reading it. I feel. Yeah, no, he times it really well, and it just flows well, doesn't it? It evokes those kind of those poetic themes to it. And I think this day and age you can almost invoke it with like climate change, with we already spoke about consumerism and and against the reliance on fossil fuels, all that sort of thing. The temperature, crop failure, and the ice caps melting, all that sort of stuff. It all kind of there's these fears that there's this new fear here as well, which you can kind of interpret as a reading about that as well. Well, I certainly could as well. Yeah, definitely. But even the ending for me sums it all up, with the actual nature, I suppose, always wins. Definitely. Just before we go into the ending as well, we were talking about it a bit earlier too, with the way the house is so regimented and organised and does everything for everyone.
with we've said in previous episodes too, like if the society collapsed or either from nuclear apocalypse or some other disease or infestation or something, like it sounds like this same world that Ray Bradbury was portraying, the people in it would not be able to survive themselves, because if they're getting this robot house to like make their breakfast and organize their schedule and things like that, if there were any survivors, say for example, how they wouldn't be able to live off the land or do anything. They'd be completely hopeless.
Yeah, funnily enough, it's actually like it's like the dog's fate, right?
It is.
The dog's relying on humans, and the humans are relying on the machines now.
Yeah, it is like that. Actually,
Yeah.
that's quite think of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, we've even spoken about ourselves. I'm probably so reliant on society now. I mean, I can't even drive a fucking manual car, for fuck's sake. So like there's a real fear that.
Yeah. Oh, if someone told me, can you like grow a tomato plant outside? I'm like, I don't know what to bloody do. Like, I'm hopeless. Yeah.
Oh, can you put a bandage on this? What?
Yeah. You just go to Woolies and get it. A bit like that. Like it's No, we've talked about that in Threads episode. Our very first one. You're seeing society go back to medieval times where they're going through the grain, the grounds, and doing farming and things like that. Yeah, like I wouldn't last 2 weeks. I wouldn't know what to do. I need someone to tell me what to do. I wouldn't have a clue.
Well, yeah, even in probably the most famous scene in Threads in the hospital scene, when the narration comes over the top and he talks about a doctor and a regular citizen. There's no real difference at this stage because they've got no medical equipment or anything to do it. They're reliant on the machines.
Yeah. Reliant on the technology. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and then this short novel, it invokes those kind of thoughts and feelings, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was a good observation, actually.
Yeah, no, I remember thinking that, and just thinking about it before, just like the people, it's like this is the next level, like relying on technology, where it's actually literally cooking your food for you, where you're not even thinking about that, like it's all done for you, like just But when we go to the ending where we said here, the fire encapsulates the house, everything falls down. It's all crumbling beneath them. I think it talks about the burning of the silhouettes again and the wall. Then it leads to the one wall that's still standing at the end, and it's telling the date. Was it the 6th of August?
I think it was the 6th of August, yeah.
Let me just double check that, sorry.
And it keeps repeating it for infinity,
Yeah. So it keeps on going about the 6th of August, 6th of August 2026.
Yeah.
5th of August 2000. So it's kind of like this is its grave, its tombstone, it's symbolizing this is where the house died, basically, on this particular date and time. It's really poetic in a way to end the short novel.
Yeah, it's a very powerful ending.
Yeah, and you just imagine. Yeah, we've talked about nature continues on. You can imagine like the foxes and the birds coming past and just hearing this robot going 6th of August 2026, 6th of August. It's just it's kind of like eerie and creepy as well. Like
Yeah, it is, and that with nature taking it back, it's we've seen examples of this obviously in real life. I mean, I've seen firsthand examples. I went to Chernobyl 11 years ago, sitting in like Pripyat and then around the exclusion zone, actually seeing nature taking it back, seeing trees actually growing through buildings and all that sort of stuff. It's actually one of the main reasons I wanted to go, to see that sort of dystopian look like firsthand.
Did you see Chernobyl? First time you came across it, was it in Call of Duty? Was that the first time you ever heard of it, or you read about it before?
No, I can actually remember watching something when I was maybe 10, or that was in year 5 or something, watching a video on it. I don't know why, but we did it at school, and watching all the kids be like my age, all the kids being evacuated and all that sort of thing. And I don't know, it always just stuck. It always, something about it always stuck with me. And then no doubt playing that Call of Duty game, like, this is the air.
Yeah.
And then, that always led me to want to go. But a big part of it was because of just to see, it's the ghost town, but nature taking it back. And it's so evident. Like, you've got certain animals back. You look at the fish in the water are massive because there's no predators. And just seeing firsthand, like, nature taking... It's
going back to the ecosystems being revived again. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, you've heard of the town in the US, Centralia?
Don't think so, no.
Where... I believe it's Pennsylvania, but I remember watching a documentary on this where, like...
Oh, the one they evacuated in the 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the fire's still burning, and they reckon it's going to go for 250 years. It's an underground fire. I think it was like anthracite coal or something they were
So isn't there something similar in Russia where there's that pit fire still burning? They lit it on fire by mistake or something, and it's going to continually to burn for like at least another 1,000 years, something crazy like that. Yeah,
Possibly.
Sounds similar. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But this is like, the town was evacuated, and this residents that lived there suddenly won't go, but they're like sinkholes opening up, and the fire's been burning for like 60 years, and scientists believe it's going to go for another 250. But you can see like nature taking it back, trees are growing back. I think weirdly they closed the highway going through there, but then graffiti artists got in and they called it like Graffiti Highway, and they were like, it's almost something out of like Escape from New York or something like that. Yeah. But no, it's like, this was written in 1950, but there are true examples of this.
Some unintentional foreshadowing in a way, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, we talked about that actually in Final Fantasy VII episode, where at the end there, where Red 13 goes back to Midgar and sees it's like nature's healing again because all human and society's been taken away.
Yeah, well, humanity's stopped plundering it of its resources, and quote Agent Smith again, we're the virus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, before we wrap it up, would you recommend this short novel to people?
I would.
Yep.
Yeah, I would. It's not going to take too much time out of your day, and it's a really good read. It's almost a really poetic read. I think I would recommend the poem more, but look, definitely time for both of them.
I think they're both like. I think you need to read the poem. I think you can read the short novel first, then read the poem, because then it makes sense. Or it's in the short novel, I guess, but I think read it on its own without the prior knowledge is like important too. So then you can see why he chose this poem and why he wanted to reference it and name it the title of the short novel as well. So
and look, I would really recommend just watching any of Ray Bradbury's talks on anything, because like he's just the man's full of wisdom, and he's brilliant.
Yeah,
but you'd obviously recommend him.
Oh, 100%, definitely. Yeah, no, I've always been a bit of a fan of his his writings. Obviously, we're going to in a future episode Fahrenheit 451, and then Something Wicked Will Come This Way. So, when I saw the short novel and came across it, I'm like, I got excited knowing it's Ray Bradbury. So, like, yes, this would be a good one to go into.
And it has been. So, what are we doing next week, Matt?
Well, Andrew, next week we're heading into the video game landscape again. We're going into the Wolfenstein series. Just a quick one. We're not going to the old school games. We're going to the 2014 onwards series, so the New Order.
New Order. Okay, cool. The old school games were kind of like Doom clones, really, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, I was reading that there were some. I think the original one came out like 1984 or something like that. But again, I know, like it's a common theme, but yeah, it's kind of back in those days very hard to invoke like a narrative and theme through video games. Where the 2014 series really like keeps it up a notch, and like you really felt the dystopian world in it, right?
Yeah. Well, we myself. And you and myself are, real, as we've established, into the Second World War, love the Second World War, but also like alternate history. Yeah. And getting to explore it firsthand, and this is incredible.
Incredible. And this is our first time doing it on the podcast as well. So, there's a lot of rabbit holes and what ifs. And
it's a little bit over the top, but that's part of his charm as well.
Oh, but we say Blazkowicz, he gets the job done. That's the main thing.
Oh, he doesn't mess around.
No.
He's a bit reckless.
He does invoke some Arnold Schwarzenegger themes and things like that, but but he's great. Yeah. So once again, guys, thanks for listening to this episode. You can also reach out to us on our social media page on Instagram at dystopediapod. Send us an email at info@dystopediapodcast.com. Rate us on your favorite platform: Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, all those things. We're on that. 5-star, 1-star, we don't mind as long as you give me some feedback. And as we said too last week, if you would like us to explore any novel or movie or TV show, let us know. We're happy to go into it. So as I said before, I'd love to do one where Andrew and I have never heard of it. Someone recommends it to us, and then we go into it completely blind and invoke those, see what it's all about.
That'd be really cool. That's kind of what this is all about.
Yeah. So thanks, guys. We'll catch you next week.
See ya.